So, my favorite video game of all time is The World Ends With You. And The World Ends With You is kind of a cult classic, right? In the meaning that, like, everyone who has played it really loves it, but not a lot of people have played it, right? And while I would love to sit here and gush about The World Ends With You, because I love that game and the art style and the soundtrack and its themes and how it uses the Nintendo DS and its very specific hardware to, like, further those themes in, like, an amazing, cohesive experience, I would love to sit here and gush about that, but that's another video for another time. Because today, I want to talk about the World Ends With You anime that just came out. Now, I want you to understand, right? Like, The World Ends With You came out when I was in, like, middle school. When did this game come out? Dude, this game came out in 2007, dude. Oh my god. So it's been a long time since we've had like any level of World Ends With You content, right? Like the game was ported on to the iPad, which was like okay. The game was really made for the DS, but it's fine. You know, you can put it on the iPad so more people can play it. They also remastered it for Switch, which I also heard was a thing, and you can play it. It was really made for the DS, but you can play it there, and you can play it on your Switch, and it's nice. But there's really been no new level World Ends With You content since ever. It just hasn't come out. So you can imagine that I was extremely excited when they announced both the anime and the sequel are coming out this year. It had been years. The fans, we didn't know what was going to happen. We thought our franchise was dead. We didn't know if we were going to get anything out of this franchise ever again. But then like a light shining down from the heavens, these announcements appeared, and every fan thought the exact same thing. Please don't fuck this up. But I gotta say, I just watched the first episode of the World Ends With You anime, and I'm a little disappointed. What I really wanted for this show was for it to be something that I could like recommend to all my friends, right? Like, I know you didn't play this obscure DS game I keep harping on about, but like you can watch this anime and experience the plot and maybe be pumped for the sequel with me. But the first episode of the anime kind of makes some missteps, I feel, and it's just not living up to the potential of what it could be, right? Like, we all know that video game adaptation, anime or movies or any of that shit is really kind of, it's like worse than a coin flip. Like, the percentage chance it's good is like really bad. But if you're familiar with the story with The World Ends With You, like you know, man, it could be something cool. They could really get it done here. And let's be real, only episode 1 is out. Like, they could still do that, but given what we've seen, I'm not 100% sure that this is going to be one of those anime that ascends above the statistics. You know what I mean? So what's wrong with this show? Well, first off, the way that it starts. The show starts with Neku waking up at the Scramble Crossing, which is where you might think the story begins, if you're familiar with the story at all. But this is a massive fuck up, actually. This is like, I actually can't believe that we started here instead of the true place that the story begins, which is the audience learning that Neku's an asshole. In the original games, you push go and you get this little intro cutscene of Neku being mad at the world, right?
Out of my face. You're blocking my view. Shut up. Stop talking. Just go the hell away. All the world needs is me. I got my values. So you can keep yours, all right? I don't get people. Never have, never will.
And you get this little introduction to him before you actually see him wake up in the Scramble Crossing and you're with him on this Reaper's Game adventure, right? And this little intro to Neku is super important to the overall themes of what this story is trying to do. This is a story about Neku opening up and learning how to trust people, not showing him at the beginning of the show being an asshole and hating what other people think and not caring about their values. Like, nothing in this first episode actually makes that much sense because they didn't take the time to show you that Neku's an asshole, dude. I can't believe that they didn't show you this. Like, all the plot points in the actual first introduction part of the game are all here in episode 1, right? And I understand that the pacing has to be very fast in this anime because there's no way you're going to cover the whole story of this game in 12 episodes if you don't speed it up a little bit, right? But the fact that the show didn't take a little bit of time to let any of its big story moments in the first bit of the game, or the first bit of the show, should I say, breathe, means that for people new to this series, none of the stuff that actually happens in episode 1, like, carries a whole lot of weight for them. Like, for example, right, at the end of the day 2 mission, the Reapers roll up and, you know, they try to trick Neku into killing his partner. You know, the pink hair girl, classic thing. Happens in the game, happens in the anime. And when it happens in the game, you kind of have a sense that you know that Neku's gonna try to kill this girl, right? Like, you just saw this cutscene about how much of an asshole he is. Like, he's making a decision, even though that he's supposed to trust his partner, and Shiki's the whole reason he can actually use his psychs and kill things. He's just gonna turn on her, right? Because of what they've set you up with in the story. You know what I mean? In the anime, he's just like possessed by noise, and he's supposed to like fight the negative emotions that he feels. Like, he's killing her because the noise possessed him, not because like he's a bad person, because he was just angry and he had negative emotions. Like, because the show didn't stop to show you who Neku as a person is, like, the whole impact of this scene doesn't exist, which means they had to replace it with some other thing of, like, having him be possessed by noise. Like, I don't understand why are you willing, what? Like, the show tries to adopt some of the same lines from the game, but it just wildly misuses them, like, in practice. Like, for example, when the lines where Neku is saying that he's really angry, right? In the game, he says this after refusing to work with Rhyme, Beat, and Shiki and mouthing off at them and being really rude. In the game, you can kind of interpret it that he's, like, angry at himself, you know? And that maybe there needs to be, like, some sort of change in his character or some shit. Just, like, watch how much better this scene with Neku almost killing Shiki plays in the game. No bullshit, no fucking noise affecting Neku's decision-making, just Neku as a character making a personal decision to make a deal with the devil.
Please, don't kill me.
The other thing the show kind of messes up on the Neku front is just not having his thoughts voice acted, actually. For the first part of the whole game, like, you are stuck in this guy's head, and he has, like, little quips and thoughts and things for just about everything that goes down. It helps you understand how much of an asshole he is and who he is as a person, which, you know, leads to you understanding the decisions he's about to make in a little bit. And it really helps ground the audience because Neku is trying to piece together everything that's happening just like the player is. In the show, the only thoughts that are, like, actually vocalized is that little bit with the I'm angry thing, which is, like, you know, of thoughts to vocalize, kind of one of the more important ones out of the story. I'll give you that. But I could have used more. And I understand about the pacing thing, though. You can't have Neku just, like, thinking random stuff all the time and, like, it taking up your screen time. But I don't know. I feel like I wanted to be in his head a little bit more because that's just what I'm used to from playing the game. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was combat. Because when I was watching the show, I was kind of confused watching the fight scenes as to who this show was really for. And maybe talking about the combat from the game will help me illustrate this a little bit. So in the game, all of the characters have psychs, which they can use to kill the monsters in this world called the noise, right? And in the game, Neku has a variety of pins that allow him to use different psychs. And this is sort of the overarching RPG combat mechanic in The World Ends With You, is that you get a bunch of different pins and you can use those pins in combat to do a bunch of different things. But combat is still always done as a team. You have Neku on the bottom screen and Shiki on the top screen. And you have a shared life bar between the two of them, and there's this whole system where you have to pay attention to both characters during combat, right? And the more that you pay attention to both of them, the more you can rise your sync meter and ultimately do a big sync attack that does a lot of damage to all the enemies, right? Now, obviously, this wasn't going to work for the anime, like having the characters be split and like sharing a life bar and like trying to explain all this bullshit. Like, obviously, things needed to be changed when you actually bring this over to the animated form. For example, Neku's psychs no longer come from the pins. He can just kind of do them, which is cool, and that's like fine. That's kind of what I expected, right? Neku can just do his psychs. He's a pyromancer. He can do all of his cool things. Like that's cool. That's fine. But when he's like actually doing it in the fight scenes, the icons of the original pins from the game like flash on the screen for a little bit. And not gonna lie, as a fan, I was pumped about this. It was so cool. I was like, oh my god, I know the pins from the game. He's doing the moves. But after that moment of hype passed me, I was a little bit confused. Because, like, newcomers to the show wouldn't understand this, right? They'd find this kind of confusing. And, like, longtime series fans like myself are honestly gonna be a little sad that Neku doesn't get his powers from his pins anymore. So, like, what? So he can just do this stuff? Like, in the middle of the, like, he does multiple fights in episode 1, and he, like, gets a new power in the middle of the second fight, and it just kind of goes completely unexplained. Like, there's zero dialogue about it, and we're just kind of supposed to accept it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work on the anime level. It doesn't really work on, like, the game level. Like, if you made it nothing, it just doesn't come together. The show also tries to show, like, Neku and Shiki, like, syncing up and doing together moves in the last fight of the episode as well. Trying to mimic the sync moves that are in the game. But I don't know. In the game, there are just like big cutscenes that do a lot of damage to all the things on screen, and in the show, it's just like Neku's like, we should do one of these moves that we tried to do earlier that looks like kind of the same as us just fighting it normally. So we're fighting him together now. I don't know, it also kind of leads back to the thing that they didn't really take much time to explain who Neku was as a character in the first place, so it kind of doesn't really have much impact when they go for it in this last scene of the episode here. I really wanted to be like pumped about them destroying the good old golden bat from the game, you know, but I don't know. But I want to give the show the benefit of the doubt, right? It's just the first episode. And ultimately, while I may have some problems with it, like the real plot of the game, of this story, it hasn't even happened yet. And so they could still execute on doing what the story does best in the long game. But I'm just a little disappointed that it isn't I can't just be so pumped about this and recommend this show to everyone, being like, dude, just go watch this and you can understand a little bit of why I'm so into this thing. Like, the plan was that this anime was gonna be sick, and then, people would be hyped about it, and then we could hop on the sequel, and then the sequel's gonna be sick, and then, Square Enix will care about us World Ends With You fans, and they'll give us more content, and we'll have, like a real franchise here, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, that's not the world that we live in, but hey, you can still go play the games. The games are very good. Go play it on the DS if you can. Play Final Remix, you can play it in HD, go play the game, because The World Ends With You is a really good game, and it's a story worth experiencing, even if the anime doesn't look like it's going to be the best way to experience that story. But not gonna lie, when the fucking game soundtrack came on during one of the fucking fight sequences, I was hyped, dude. I was hyped. I was screaming like a little girl. I was so excited. Oh my god, I haven't heard the soundtrack in so long. It's just like, oh my god, it was beautiful, man. It was beautiful. Just don't fuck up the sequel, Squeenix. Do you hear me? Don't fuck up the sequel. 12-year-old me needs this, okay? I need this game to be good, or I will...